it kind of made me feel like I was being lied to my whole life by professional doctors. And I know that wasn't the test I was going for, but any of those days through high school could have been the last day. And
Hi everyone, I'm Rosemarie Miller and welcome to Then They Rose. Here we'll be exploring the inspiring journeys of how celebrities, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders overcame adversity and rose to greatness. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Shareef O'Neal. As the son of NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal, Shareef made a name for himself on the basketball court. After gaining national attention as a high school basketball star and committing to UCLA, he faced a major hurdle with a heart condition that led to surgery. But Shareef didn't let that stop him. He transferred to LSU to continue chasing his basketball dreams while raising awareness about health. Stay tuned to hear more about Shareef O'Neal. Shareef O'Neal, thank you for joining Then They Rose.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Shareef, on this podcast, we're discussing how people overcame their greatest adversity and rose to greatness. And from just reading about your story, you certainly have done that.
Yes.
So take us back to the beginning. Who was young Shareef O'Neal?
Young Shareef was, it's kind of, I don't use the word nerd in a bad way, but it's a nerdy kid. I've always loved video games, always loved spending time with my family, basketball, of course. And as a kid, I just loved Power Rangers and WWE. It's all the stuff that kids really liked. It was a very carefree world when I was a kid. I felt like, everything was there when I needed it to be. My family was always around. I feel like that's the strongest part about my family is that we always hung out with each other no matter what it was. So, just the young streak was very carefree, just having fun.
Yeah. Was there a lot of pressure being Shaq's son?
That didn't really kick in till I was about 14 or 15 because like when I first moved to LA, people didn't know who my dad was. 'Cause this is when we were just living with my mom. Like when I lived with my dad in elementary school, people knew. But once we kind of parted ways and my dad was, still playing and my family moved to LA, nobody knew who my dad was. And I never went to school telling anybody who my parents were. So, they kind of found out when he came to school one day. I think it was like fifth grade graduation or something like that. But that was just at school. With AAU and basketball, playing basketball, nobody really knew who I was. I had an early game one day, and my dad came. It wasn't that packed, but I see a guy under the hoop with a camera. It's a little small camera. I didn't think anything of it, and I wake up a few days later. This video has like 11 million views on YouTube, and it's like Shaq's 15-year-old son. And I go on my Instagram. I have thousands and thousands of followers now, and everything's just going crazy. So I would say when I was about 15, that's when things really started to kind of be considered pressure. I never really looked at it like that because I was always just having fun playing the game I loved. But that's when things started getting crazy, the comparisons and all that. So I'd say it didn't happen until I was about 15, 16 years old. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's it like? I don't know. I think about my childhood growing up. Like I knew some way, somehow I was going to have to do something with my life or
Yes.
else it wasn't going to be easy for me.
Uh-huh.
Like what's it like not having that as a worry growing up?
It wasn't a worry growing up, but my parents did a great job of, making it seem like, not making it seem like it was a worry, but everything we wanted from them, we had to kind of work for. So you want these new shoes, you gotta have a great basketball game or bring home perfect grades or, clean the house, do something. So, it was kind of, they were doing that on purpose because now I feel like we're not the kids who ask for anything from our parents. If they give us something, we're grateful to take it. But I feel like they did an awesome job of, raising us to work for things that we wanted. So my dad is like, all right, we're going to go out, pick up all this trash on the beach, and then y'all can get, I don't know, a pair of shoes or a new video game. So we always had to work for something. And
Yeah.
I like that they did that. And I'll probably do the same thing when I have children one day.
Okay. So we're 15 years old and people are just finding out that you're Shaq's son. Then what?
For the first few weeks, I was super, super hyped. I was like, I have this many followers on Instagram. Everybody's coming to my games. Now my games are packed. It didn't really kick in until I had my first bad game. So that's when I was like, oh yeah, because after that video came out, I was having a really good stretch, and bad games happen to everyone. So I had that one bad game, and then I go on my Instagram, and there's a video on YouTube, and people are like, oh, he's not that good, blah blah blah. So that's when I kind of started to, as a young kid, you don't ever want to read something like that. So and you have all these eyes on you. So after I was 15 and I had that one bad game, I was like, all right, now that I know that everyone's watching, every move I do, I gotta make sure I come out on top. So I spent that summer and those next few years getting really, really good, and working on myself, working on my game, and then a lot happens. It's a lot happened after that. So.
But you initially loved skateboarding, right?
Yeah, I was a huge skateboarder back when I first moved here. I used to grow up and be around Fairfax and Melrose all day. Just I was a huge Tyler the Creator fan, and I was always running into him on my skateboard. I was pretty good at skateboarding, and I fell one pretty bad time, and I never picked up the board again.
That's all it takes. I took up cycling recently. I had one big fall.
Yeah, it was.
Couldn't do it.
I fell so bad one time, and I was still playing basketball on the side, but I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was older at this time. So I was like, let me just skateboard every day. Try to jump off some stairs. I've done it millions of times. I fell, had a big bone bruise on my hip. I couldn't even laugh, walk. I couldn't do anything, talk. Like everything hurt. So I just stopped skateboarding. And I miss it, but I don't at the same time. I don't want to feel that pain again.
So do you feel like basketball chose you, or did you really choose basketball? Because, obviously your dad is Shaq, and you're 11. 11? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're almost 7 feet tall. That's crazy.
I might as well say 7 now, yeah.
Like, as you're walking through the world, I don't know, do you feel like it chose you?
I feel like basketball was a sign from above to always be in my life, My parents they didn't force us to play basketball at all. They just wanted us to do what we wanted to do. And as long as it was making us happy and we're making a good career out of it, they were supportive. But I feel like me and basketball kind of just chose each other. I was always in my dad's game. One of my first presents was the little kids hoop. Always had a favorite player, had a lot of jerseys, basketball shoes. Basketballs being around the house, there was courts. So I feel like it was kind of a must for everybody in my family to know how to play basketball because all the stuff was around, but we were never forced to. I was just always that kid who was trying to dunk on the little hoop when I was a kid. I was always the best at recess, PE, when we played basketball. So, I didn't really take basketball serious until that video came out. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. So I wasn't a late bloomer. I was always pretty good. But once I saw that video come out, I'm like, oh, man, I'm actually getting kind of popular through this. That's when I was like, let me just drop the skateboarding, drop everything else, and just stick to basketball. So,
have you ever wanted to be anything else?
I wanted to be a music producer. Pretty recently, after my surgery, I started making music. So I'll do that. But I always wanted to play basketball. Okay. So I feel like that's my number one.
All right. Well, who are your favorite in the recent draft picks? Top 3.
I'm gonna go with AJ Johnson. I'm cool with his brother Jalen. Who else? Bronny, of course. That's always a blessing to see, knowing what he went through, and seeing his growth from him being a kid to now is awesome. So I would say AJ, Bronny, and then Rob. He's on the Timberwolves. So that's just 3 people who are familiar with my little brother, and they're cool with my little brother. So it's always to see the younger homies winning. So I would say those 3 are probably my favorite in the draft.
So, seeing Bronny and what he went through with his own heart condition and making it to the draft, how do you feel about that? Because you were at the top of your game at a certain point.
Me and Bronny, our situations, they're not similar, but they are similar. Ours both happened in our first year of college. I was at UCLA, he was at USC. Mine didn't get to the point to where his did. Because they found mine before I started practicing. They did all these tests on me when I got there. I was still working on a little bit, but they made me wear a heart monitor in one of the practices, and that's how they found it. And I'll go back to why they made me wear heart monitors, because when I was a kid, I had a lot of heart problems. I missed a lot of elementary school and pre-K just because I was at school and living in Florida.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just be falling out, waking up in the hospital. I was just missing a lot of school, and we couldn't find out what it was for a long time. And then I got something called a heart ablation when I was about 6, and every single year after that, from 6 to about 18 years old, my mom would take me to do a test, see if my heart was okay, and they would clear me every single time. And when I got to UCLA, the trainer Shane, UCLA is a huge medical school, you know, awesome staff, and I'm very thankful for that school for me being there and them finding this. But Shane, he saw my medical records from when I was a kid until now, and he's like, "Why are you in the hospital so much?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just a minor heart problem I had." And then he kind of brushed it off at first, but you know, him being he has to make sure everyone on the team is safe, so it didn't sit right with him. And he's, "I'm gonna make you wear this heart monitor," and I was kind of against it because it's like I'm a freshman at school, you know, I'm looking around at the girls, and I have this big heart monitor on and all that, so I was kind of mad, and I took it off. And he was like, "If you take it off, I'm not clearing you to play basketball." So I put it back on. One practice I had, I felt the same exact thing I felt when I was a little kid, like that was making me pass out. But you know, I was a little older now, so I think I can control it. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, I don't really want to press that button, but I might have to. So you know, I kind of go for a little bit, and I kind of psych myself out. So I'm like, let me just press it, because I was gonna ignore it, because I was like, you know, I'm good. I didn't pass out.
So what does the button do?
It like records how my heart rhythm was going at the time, and it sends it to the hospital. It was like a really weird sticker monitor thing with one button on it, and it kind of like bulks up. So I pressed it. By the time the week was up, I get my heart monitor back. I'm chilling. He's like, chill for a few days, and then it's like 7, 8 p.m. He calls me, let me know if I'm cleared to play or not for the season. He's like, "I need you to come to the facility," and he's like, "Call your mom, tell her to come." So me not even thinking, I'm just driving in the facility, happy, you know, bumping my music. And then he meets me in the basketball facility, and it's just me and him. And he's like, "We're gonna wait for your mom to get here." He walks us to like the medical facility, and I'm still not thinking anything of it. You know, I'm thinking it's just another little test I have to do, or maybe my mom has to sign off on something. I don't know what it is. We go in this room, and you know, it's a slideshow, maybe 6 or 7 doctors, white coats, and it has a picture of a heart on there. And then I kind of just was like, at first I was like, you know, like, it's back. I didn't know what it was. I just saw a picture of a heart, and going through everything I went through when I was a kid, I was like, you know, something's wrong. And I really didn't listen to what they said was going on, because I was crying so much and my head was down. My dad was on FaceTime. And it was even a point where I was almost under the table, just covering my ears, because I was just like, I did all this stuff for all these years. I was a number 1 player in high school in California. Just in California, I was the number 1 player. But still, that momentum of me going through all that, and then it kind of getting shot down a few weeks before my first game was really bad. So,
but Shareef, wasn't that always in the back of your head through all of those years? Like you knew that thing was there. There was something.
Yeah, it was always in the back of my head. But I think what kind of made me feel better is I went through all those years of getting cleared and cleared and cleared. And I thought that was just the way I got cleared, just that one test where they put the things on me. I run on the treadmill. They see how my heart reacts. It was one test that I've never done before. It was either like a CT scan or something like that, that they found the problem I had. So it kind of made me feel like I was being lied to my whole life by professional doctors. And I know that wasn't the test I was going for, but, you know, any of those days through high school could have been the last day. And I didn't know I was playing freely, you know, running around, getting my heart racing all the time. And I was just thinking I was fine when I really wasn't the whole time.
That's scary.
Yeah, now looking back at it, it was like, man, it was just, I don't know.
So you really think you were getting lied to by your doctors?
It's not that I wasn't getting lied to. It's just we weren't doing the test that would find that problem that I had.
But they were doing every other test besides
that one. So it was really weird when I finally got that test, because like they made me drink like it was like a thicker pink liquid, and they're like, it's gonna like go through all your veins and we'll be able to read it. So once I did that and I sat in a little machine for like 4 hours, that's when they found it. But it was just, I wasn't being lied to. It was just kind of something I didn't think about. Like I was doing all this, playing at this high level, AAU, you know, running around 2, 3 games a day, and my heart wasn't healthy the whole time. It's a very scary feeling, and I'm glad I didn't find out the hard way, because, there was times in elementary school where I thought I was going to find out the hard way when I was just passing out, waking up in the hospital, being in there for weeks and weeks at a time. So
Right. So ball is life at this time, and you find out that, okay, wow, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that makes you spiral down. Could you tell me about those low moments?
Yeah, like when it happened, my big thing was, what am I going to say to the people who are looking for me to play this year? At first, I wasn't going to say anything, but then people are going to question, why am I on the bench? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Like, why am I not playing? So you finally decide to tell the public what's going on. And I feel like that kind of it made it better, but worse.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Because I found out I had to get surgery about 2 months before I got it. Okay. And when I announced it, I went to school the next day, and everybody just kept talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. So I still have 60 days to prepare for this. And I keep hearing about it all day, every day. It's just making me more and more and more scared. So, I really started to isolate myself. I feel like people weren't looking at me the same. Like even like my little brothers and sisters, and like I feel like they just kind of were looking at me like, man, like what's going on? I feel like everyone was super confused, and I've never had a surgery before. That was my first one. So I was super, super scared. I feel like my low moments were me just being scared. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to play again. And the thing with my surgery was there was 2 options. I could either live my life happily. Maybe it'll never happen. That's what they're saying. They're like, there's plenty of people in the world who have this and live a long, healthy life, and nothing ever happens. And they're like, you've already lived 18 and, nothing's ever happened. Or you can get surgery and it'll never happen. So at first, I'm like, I'm just going to live my life, and, I'm not going to get this surgery because I've been good this whole time. But then I kind of started to think to myself, like a few days later, like, if I put my shoes on and go out to this practice and it's my last, and they just warn me about it, then it's going to be, super devastating for my family and everyone around. And it would have been super bad if I would have had a fallout on the court or anything. So I finally came to my senses and like, I'm going to get this surgery. So.
But in those moments when you were isolating yourself, I'm sure a lot was going on in your head at that time. Like, what was your inner narrative?
I was kind of telling myself, not gonna lie, I don't remember what I was telling myself. It was so much going through my head, and I was 18 at the time.
That's a lot for an 18.
Yeah, I was really just scared for my life. The thing was, I didn't have anybody to really talk to about it, and I think my family kind of understood that. Yeah. Like, I could talk all I want, but at the end of the day, who could relate to that? Because I was the only one who ever had to go through a heart surgery in my family, and it wasn't anything I could relate to, which made me feel kind of unsafe. I didn't have anybody be like, it's okay, because nobody knew at the end of the day. It was a very, very risky surgery. Yeah. And it also made me scared that UCLA sent me somewhere else to get the surgery done. Like, the UCLA doctors are like, we don't really have anybody who specializes in this kind of surgery. So they sent me to Stanford. And I know Stanford is also a beautiful medical school, but it was still kind of scary that, like, they don't even, like, there's people around the world, and we're trying to find the best doctors who are declining, like, oh, no, we don't want to do this surgery. So it was really, really hardcore for me to hear at that age.
So how do you feel like that changed your life? And I don't just mean like the basketball life. I mean inwardly. How does that change how you look at health, how you value health?
I value my health a lot, especially my heart. I really just, I don't know, I try to stay stress-free now. I feel like I've already been at my lowest, so, not a lot bothers me now. I feel like it made me more of a caring person. My mom said something that was super awesome to me a few years ago. She's like, everywhere we go, people will just say you have such like a beautiful, what is the word I'm looking for? Like I guess personality,
You have a beautiful spirit.
Yeah, like a spirit. Yeah. And she's like, you have to think that you're one of the only people in the world. I know there's millions of people who had heart surgery, but people who've had their heart physically touched by another person's hands, I feel like are a different type of people. Everybody I've met who's had a heart surgery, is some of the coolest people ever. So my mom's saying that your heart has been physically touched, moved around, and that's not something that people go through all the time. So you're more caring because that's pretty rare if somebody's actually putting their hands on your heart for a good reason. So I feel like it just made me more of a good person. I like to spend time with my family more now, and I like to enjoy little things a lot more now. I feel like at first I was taking things for granted. I thought I was a cool kid. I was doing this, doing that, but there was one day, my life could have been over, and I was just that's what I would have left with. So now, a few years after, I feel like I'm a lot more caring about things, and I just like to be around my family a lot now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're at this low point. How did you eventually pull yourself out of it? How did you, as you say, you don't let too much stress you out now, make peace with how this changed the trajectory of your life?
I would really say it was the kids in the hospital I was at. I was at Stanford Children's Hospital, 18 years old. Might have been the oldest one in there, but there was a time where they had to teach me how to walk again. And yeah, when I had to walk around the floor, when they had to teach me how to walk, I was walking pretty slow. I look into the other rooms and I see that there's kids 4 or 5 years old going on 3 or 4 heart surgeries, and they're the happiest kids in the world. So, me crying, 6'11", all these tattoos, I'm just crying, and all these kids are looking at me like, what are you crying for? You only had one surgery. So, seeing those kids, and there was a super cool kid. I honestly forgot his name. The medication had me in a whole different world, but he was just, the way he was speaking about himself, he was super young. He's like, when I finally got to the hospital, I'm going to be a successful movie producer, and I'm gonna be a professional soccer player. And he just kept saying that's what he was gonna do. And me, I'm in the bed thinking, oh, my life is over and all this. And I see all these little kids saying like, oh, I'm gonna be a firefighter, I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, these kids are really like speaking it into existence no matter what they went through. So, after that night, I was like, if I really want to play basketball again, I really can. And I'm just not like gonna mope around and cry and sit here in this low spirit. So I feel like the kids around me, I don't know any of those kids. They were super young, but they were the coolest kids ever. And they were so determined to get out of there. One kid has been in there for almost over a year getting his heart fixed, and he was super happy, super cool, bringing me stuffed animals, all that. And then at the end of the hospital journey, me and my dad went to like the store. They have like a little store, like books and toys and stuffed animals. We got every kid in the hospital. Like, we basically cleared out the store and gave something to every kid in there. So I feel like if it wasn't for those kids being in there and really motivating me, even though they were little kids, I really appreciate them being there, and I really appreciate me being at a children's hospital, because I feel like at a adult hospital, it's kind of more personal. Like, everyone's with their families and all these kids were super interactive with me, and I don't think they ever seen someone that tall, like, going through the same thing as them. So they're like, "Oh, who's this kid?" Like, they're like, "Are you old enough to be in here?" and all that. So, I mean, are you young enough to be in here? So it was really cool. Those kids, I hope they're doing well today. It was a beautiful moment for me to see how positive they were about the situations they were in. So that's how I kind of got out of my slump a little bit, and I was like, I'm gonna play basketball. And I feel like I look up to those little kids, even though some kids who are getting surgery look up to me. But I really got all my motivation from some kids who were like 8, 9. Some of them were 4. Like, they were really young, and they were just super happy to, be there, be with their families, and it was super cool.
So, in the same way those kids inspired you and they poured into you in a way, how are you pouring into others going through similar situations?
By sharing my story, I feel like that's the number one thing I could do. I used to be so against talking about it, and I used to be so mad I went through it. But, sharing my story, I feel like it's helped millions and millions of people. I've actually connected with a kid through Instagram who was, a high school basketball player. He had to get a surgery, and he just messaged me. And I look at my messages sometimes, like the request, but I saw this super long message. He's like, I'm going through a heart surgery. What do I do? And then I kind of just told him my situation. I connected with his mom through there too, and then we were kind of talking about it. I kind of watched his whole journey going up too. He's back playing, and it kind of just, I don't know. It was super cool to see that someone trusted my word on something I went through in a similar situation. So I share my story. I always give back. I've partnered with the American Heart Association. I always just look to give back now, and I'm willing to share my story however many times. If it's helping people out there, that means the world to me. That's all. That's all I really care for, is that I'm helping others, and I feel like that's really how I move now and how I embrace what I've gone through. I'm not afraid of my scar anymore. I'm not hiding it when I go out. I want people to ask me about what I went through, and I feel like that's just kind of how I live life now. Is trying to spread more awareness and just preach heart health to people.
Yeah, your test is your testimony.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so since you're not so much into the basketball thing anymore, what's next for you?
Right now, I'm still playing basketball. I did my first year pro, I would say, not last year, but the season before that. I was gonna go to Australia to go play basketball for this year, and then things started to change with my family. Not in a bad way, in a good way. They made my dad the president of Reebok, and I would say this past Thanksgiving, I was getting ready to go to Australia in about late December or January, and then my dad is like, "Come hang out with me for Thanksgiving." So I go with my dad. We're on the plane. He's like, "Australia's far, all this, like, you don't have to go to Australia." And I'm kind of like, "Yeah." I kind of just wanted to move. I don't know why. I was like, let me just go try something new. And I was going to move to Australia, but I didn't. And he's like, they may be the president of Reebok. He's like, "Can you do me a favor this year? Can you help me rebrand Reebok? I'll let you help redesign the shoes, redesign the clothes, help sign players." He's like, "I really need your help." And basically my job for Reebok right now is kind of the bringing in the culture, connecting the culture to Reebok. So, I took a year from playing professionally. I still work all the time, but seeing all the things my dad has done for me, I wasn't gonna go to Australia to be 16 hours away from my family when they were just holding me down for the past however many years. So when he kind of asked me for the help, I was like, for a second, I thought to myself, like, I was really just gonna leave my family by myself, go to Australia after they just came and supported me after all this, and they were all sitting with me through the hospital. So I'm never gonna leave my family, not too far, but I decided to help my dad rebrand Reebok, and we're doing a really good job right now. And I say by the time 2025 starts, Reebok will be up there with the rest of these brands, and I'm glad I can contribute with that. And yeah, basically I'm just the guy in there who's telling them, "Oh, this is the trends now. These are the brands that we should try to go for. These are the players we should go for." So I'm glad that he trusts me. It's kind of different living a working lifestyle now. But as long as I play basketball every day, I'm good. I still I'm doing both now. I can see my family way more. I'm in LA right now. Most of the time I'll be somewhere away, working out or training with the team. And I plan to go back to playing basketball one day, but it's good to take this year off and, help my dad out with this rebranding. And yeah, I'm happy where I am right now. Still in shape. I can still compete against anybody in the world, I believe, which is also cool that I'm doing networking and working and still working out and getting better at the same time. So that's what I do right now. And this is my first time really announcing it to anybody. Nobody really knows, but yeah.
I certainly appreciate you doing it on this show. Thank you.
No problem.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining me today, Shareef.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Awesome.